If you're loving this podcast, be sure to check out the full lineup. From news and local politics to sports and true crime. Find your next great listen right now at duluthnewstribune.com/podcasts. That's duluthnewstribune.com/podcasts.
Hello, Northlanders. It's Wednesday, March 22nd. I'm Wyatt Buckner, the Duluth News Tribune Minute, presented by Minnesota Power Employees Credit Union.
The average MPECU member saves over $785 a year in better rates and lower fees. And with MPECU, every ATM is your ATM. With their free checking program, you get ATM fee reimbursements at any ATM anywhere in the U.S. Check out Minnesota Power Employees Credit Union services online at mpecu.com or visit their offices in downtown Duluth, Arrowhead Road, or Miller Trunk Highway.
Now here's a look at today's headlines. An Iron Range man has admitted to supplying drugs to another man who died of an overdose in 2021. Bryce Gardner Duncan, 23 of Chisholm, pleaded guilty last week in State District Court in Virginia to an amended count of second-degree manslaughter in the death of Devin Michael Erickson, 19 of rural Aurora. Duncan is expected to receive a guideline sentence of 4 years in prison when he appears again before Judge Robert Friday on April 24th, per the terms of a plea agreement with the St. Louis County Attorney's Office. The charge was amended from third-degree murder, which carries a presumptive term of approximately 7 years for a first-time offender. Erickson was found by a Babbitt police officer in a running pickup truck outside an auto store around 1:20 a.m. March 24, 2021. He had apparently been parked there several hours and was pronounced dead at the scene. Officers recovered drugs and paraphernalia, including 8 oxycodone pills that later tested positive for fentanyl, and a baggie containing methamphetamine. An autopsy later determined that Erickson died as a result of a combination of fentanyl, heroin, meth, and a psychoactive drug sold under brand names such as Xanax. A search of Erickson's phone reportedly showed him communicating with Duncan on Snapchat in the days before his death. Authorities said bank records showed a transaction for $240 on March 24th. The amended manslaughter charge required Duncan to acknowledge he caused Erickson's death by, quote, culpable negligence whereby the person creates an unreasonable risk and consciously takes chances of causing death or bodily harm to another, end quote. Essentia Health is reopening its Miller Hill Surgery Center and Pharmacy in Duluth today, the healthcare system announced Tuesday afternoon. The facilities have been closed since March 14th, when a portion of the Miller Hill Mall's roof collapsed. No Essentia properties were damaged by the collapse, but its facilities have gradually reopened over the last week as structural inspections were made. Essentia reopened its Center for Personal Fitness on Saturday, the Therapy and Performance Center, Polinsky Medical Rehabilitation Center, and Essentia Health Miller Hill Clinic in the Miller Hill Health Plaza resumed regular operating hours Monday. All patient appointments will resume as scheduled. Fueled by an electric 34-point performance by junior Abe Salmus, unseeded Hermantown pushed number 2 seed Orano to the brink of an upset in the quarterfinal round of the Class AAA state tournament Tuesday afternoon at Williams Arena in Minneapolis. A pair of late free throws by Orano's Grant Gunderson ultimately served as the difference in the 84-82 final, though Hermantown head coach Annie Finsk said the team's grit and competitiveness were on full display to erase the double-digit deficit faced at halftime. The loss moves the Hawks into the consolation bracket, where they'll take on Stewartville at Concordia University in St. Paul at 4 p.m. today. The Minnesota Duluth men's basketball team huddled on the floor after the handshake lines had passed. Head coach Justin Wyke spoke to his Bulldogs, who had just dropped their Elite 8 game 86-68 to Black Hills State in Evansville, Indiana. The somber faces and lowered heads of the UMD players and staff were greeted by a standing ovation of the traveling contingent at Ford Center. The Bulldogs' historic season, which featured their first appearance in the Elite 8 and first 3 NCAA tournament wins in program history, was over just 6 years removed from a dismal 4-25 finish. Those final moments on the floor were spent together, huddled and reminiscing on what was and what could be. Wyke wanted his players to soak in the moment, look around to see what they accomplished, and thank those who came along. The Bulldogs have grown over the past few seasons. UMD made its first NCAA tournament in 20 years last year and has now made strides to the Elite 8. The Bulldogs' foe from South Dakota made the Final Four last season. Quote, they were as good as advertised, end quote, Wyke said, and showed that experience. Now here's a look at your forecast, brought to you by the News Tribune's Northlandia podcast.
This weather forecast for the greater Duluth Superior region for today, a really messy day. Light snow in the morning turning into maybe a mixture of snow and rain during the day. Temperatures will warm back up into the mid to upper 30s this afternoon with a southeast wind around 10 to 20 miles an hour, maybe gusting a little bit higher. Might get up to an inch or so of accumulation. A few spots up on the North Shore, though, likely to get some pretty heavy snow accumulations where the lake effect gets going. For tonight, mostly cloudy with temperatures dropping down into the teens to maybe 20. And then for Thursday, sunshine returning with temps warning back into the middle 30s tomorrow. I'm Storm Tracker and meteorologist John Wheeler.
Thank you to the Northlandia podcast for their support. The weekly podcast explores curious and unique stories here in the Northland. Whether it's a look inside the Northern Rail train car inn, or an introduction to Duluth's musical roboticist, Robot Rickshaw, each episode celebrates the region's distinctive people, places, and history. You can find the latest episode of Northlandia at duluthnewstribune.news or wherever you also get this podcast. Reporting for today's episode was done by Tom Olson, Anthony Christensen, and Jake Petarsky. Thank you for listening to Duluth News Tribune Minute. Have a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.